Hello, I'm David.
Hello, I'm sexy, I mean Kimberly, but you can call me Kim.
Okay, Kim, you're a little strange though.
Well, I'm just nervous.
Why?
Because you're hot.
Huh, wow, cool.
You look badass.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Let's go out?
Sure.
Wonder where the waiter is, huh?
Absolutely horrible.
I think he's coming.
Yeah.
May I take your order? Yeah, I'll have the shrimp cocktail.
And I'll take the cheese garde.
Be right back.
That was good. Let's go home.
Now let's go.
KK.
By the way, why are you holding a knife?
Well, I'm gonna do something with it.
What?
That's right, baby. Time to die.
Please don't.
It's for the best, baby.